Welcome to the Wellness Protocol, your source for guidance on metabolic health, hormones, and longevity. I'm Dr. Alessia Roehnelt, double board certified endocrinologist, and on each episode, I'll share simple tools rooted in science and experience to help you feel better, live longer, and take control of your health. Welcome to the Wellness Protocol. I'm your host, Dr. Alessia Roehnelt. Have you ever felt like you are doing everything right? You're eating healthy, counting calories, watching the scale, exercising, but your weight will just not budge. Or do you ever feel like you're doing so well and you have just one slip up and you automatically gain 5 pounds? Well, you're not imagining this and you are not alone. Today, we're going to be diving into a hidden factor that's sabotaging your weight loss efforts: insulin resistance. Insulin is known as a hormone that controls blood sugar, but did you know it also controls your body's ability to store fat or break it down? And some foods, especially carbohydrates, will make that insulin level go through the roof. So it may not just be about how much you eat, but what you eat that really impacts your insulin and weight gain response. In this episode, we'll explore how insulin sensitivity affects your weight and why calorie counting might not be enough. I'll also talk about how you can identify whether or not you have insulin resistance and if this could potentially be causing a weight loss roadblock for you. Stick around because we are going to discuss the keys to breaking this frustrating cycle. I want to set you up with a really common case that I see in my practice almost every day. A patient comes in, they have been marking down everything that they eat. Maybe they weigh their food. They're counting calories. They're marking everything down. They're using a Fitbit or their Apple Watch to measure how many calories they're burning in a workout. They keep a notebook of everything that they ate the day before. Yet they continue to gain weight. They are incredibly frustrated and feel that all of these efforts are for absolutely nothing because no matter what they do, they still wind up gaining weight. Or maybe you're that person where if you eat really healthy and stick to your exercise regimen, you finally will start to see some changes in your body and your energy levels by the end of the week. But you have one slip up. You go out for pizza with your friends. You eat a bagel on the weekend. Automatically, the scale goes up 5 pounds like nothing. This is not in your head. This happens day to day to so many people, and this is one of the most common types of patients I see in my practice. So why is this happening? To understand why this is happening to your body, let's first talk about what's happening inside of your body. And this has to do with a very special hormone called insulin. Now, when you eat any type of carbohydrate, whether it's bread or a dessert, any type of carb, it will increase your blood sugar. When your blood sugar goes up, your body will produce the hormone called insulin. Insulin allows your body to take that sugar or glucose from your bloodstream and pull it into your cells to use it as energy. So insulin is absolutely necessary in keeping a normal blood sugar. However, many people are becoming insulin resistant. That means that when they eat that particular type of food, the typical amount of insulin production is not enough to do that job of pulling the sugar out of the bloodstream and into cells. So they need to really ramp up that signal to get the job done. So in these people, insulin levels are very high because they need a high amount of this hormone in order to keep the blood sugar stable and in order to take some of that excess sugar out and use it as energy. So what's the problem? As long as the job gets done, right? Wrong. Insulin is also a hormone of fat storage. That means that if you have insulin resistance, when your insulin level goes up, it is telling your body to store fat. So let's say you start your day with a piece of bread or toast or oatmeal or pancakes, and your blood sugar starts to rise and your insulin level rises with it. Well, now you have just set off the hormone to tell your body to store fat. So maybe after breakfast, you do a great workout. Maybe for lunch, you have an excellent salad. For dinner, you have some fish and a little bit of vegetables. But because of that morning meal, your body has been in a state of trying to store fat instead of breaking it down. And this is why having high insulin levels or insulin resistance will lead to weight gain instead of weight loss. So what types of foods will cause the biggest spike in insulin? Foods that will cause the fastest and largest spike in insulin are carbohydrates, especially sugar. Sugar would be absolutely number one here. So for instance, a piece of candy or dessert would potentially raise the blood sugar the most and therefore cause the highest release of insulin. Other carbohydrates, however, can have similar effects, such as rice. Rice is a carbohydrate that is known to raise blood sugar quickly and therefore insulin levels very quickly. So some plain starches like rice, pasta, bread, these are all foods that are more likely to trigger a high blood sugar followed by a high insulin. So what does this mean? Does this mean that you can never have these food groups because you're never allowed to have a high insulin level? No, absolutely not. Number one, moderation is key. So these foods in moderation are not always a bad thing, but there are better ways to eat them. So let me give you some tips. Number one, always combine a carbohydrate with a fat or a protein. That means, for instance, if you have an apple. Now, an apple is really just carbohydrates. So if you eat an apple, put a little bit of natural peanut butter on it. Maybe eat it with some almonds. This is a way to give your body some fat and protein at the same time as the carbohydrate. When your body sees this combination of ingredients, it will lead to a slower rise in the blood sugar and a slower and smaller rise in the insulin levels. So always combine your carbs with a fat or a protein. Another trick is to change up the order in which you eat certain types of foods during a meal. So the best way to eat a meal would be to start with fiber like vegetables, then have your protein or fat, and then potentially your starch or carbohydrate like potatoes or pasta. So start with fiber, then protein and fat, then your carbohydrate. So we talked about why for people with insulin resistance, it can be incredibly hard to lose weight if you are eating too many carbs or eating those carbs at the wrong time. But how do you know if you're insulin resistant? There are a lot of ways to figure this out. So let's talk about a few. Number one, without any sort of testing, blood work, monitoring devices, you may be able to know from a couple key signs and symptoms. If you tend to get very tired after a meal, that may mean that you are having high blood sugars after eating that meal, and that could be consistent with high blood sugars or insulin resistance. Another way to know is a common sign called acanthosis nigricans. This is a darkening of the skin on the back of the neck. Oftentimes, patients will think that they have dirt on the back of their neck, or maybe they're not washing themselves appropriately, but it actually is a hyperpigmentation or darkening of the skin that happens at the back of the neck. This is very, very common in people with significant insulin resistance. But if you're looking for a more definitive answer, there are tests that you can do at home as well as in the doctor's office. At home, you can check blood sugar with a good old-fashioned blood sugar monitor. Most of these do require a doctor's prescription, but some can be purchased over the counter. Another way to monitor is with a continuous glucose monitor. These are the devices that you put on the back of your arm. They go in almost like a stamp into the back of your arm, and they will monitor your blood sugar 24/7. They send those readings to an app that you have on your phone, and you can track how your body responds to different changes in your lifestyle, whether that's how your blood sugar goes up after eating too many carbs, whether that's how quickly your sugar drops when you go for a walk after one of your meals, or whether your blood sugar is going up because maybe you're sick, you're not feeling well, your body is stressed, you'll be able to see these patterns. This kind of device is very helpful for people who are trying to figure out where the problem is. They think they're eating really healthy. They think they're doing the right exercise regimen. But maybe for their specific body, they're doing something that is not optimal. So these kind of devices are really personalized ways to figure out what the best diet and exercise regimen is for you. In the office, we can test for insulin resistance using blood work. We typically will check blood sugar levels. We will check something called your hemoglobin A1C, which is a marker of how much sugar has been coating your red blood cells over the last 2 to 3 months. We can also look at fasting insulin levels. The level alone does not give the whole picture. I have had a lot of patients come in saying, I've had my insulin level checked and it was normal, meaning it was in the normal range of the lab. That's not exactly how you need to interpret this. You need to look at the insulin level in combination with the blood sugar. Because if the blood sugar is perfect, insulin levels should be very low, like 3 or 4. If the blood sugar is relatively high, insulin levels should be a little bit higher. But if you see a mismatch where the blood sugar is normal, but the insulin is almost at the upper limit of normal on that lab, you know there might be a problem. That for that person, it is taking a pretty high amount of insulin to keep that blood sugar normal. So this is unfortunately oftentimes missed and really does give us critical information about your metabolism and what types of meal plans you might respond better to. So if you are concerned that you may have insulin resistance, maybe you've already been diagnosed with it, maybe you've been seeing some abnormalities on a continuous glucose monitor, or maybe you just think, you know what, that really resonates with me. That sounds like exactly how I gain weight. I do think I have insulin resistance. Well, let's talk about some practical ways to manage it. Number 1, breakfast. Most important meal of the day to keep low carb. You don't have to eat breakfast. Many people do great fasting in the morning, skipping breakfast. Maybe they can even get by with just a cup of black coffee. But what you put in your body first thing in the morning really sets up your metabolism for that day. So I would encourage you to have a very low carb but high protein breakfast. This will give your body the fuel you need. This will keep blood sugars stable. This will, even better, keep insulin very stable and will allow your body to be in a state of potentially breaking down fat so that when you go to do that workout, you are working to break down fat stores to try to lose weight. When you eat that really healthy lunch and really healthy dinner, your body is set up metabolically to process that food as well as possible and to try to minimize how much fat you're storing. Another tip for the mornings. I oftentimes feel that what people put in their coffee just gets overlooked. We assume, okay, like just a cup of coffee in the morning. But think about how many ways people take their coffee. Sure, some people take it black, some with a little milk, a little sugar, that's easy. But if you are going to a coffee place and getting something with pumps of vanilla and pumps of this and that and whipped cream and sugar, you are not just having coffee in the morning. And when you drink that sugary type of sweetened coffee, your taste buds will start to sense sugar. Whether this is real sugar that you put in or potentially even artificial sugars. And once your body realizes something sweet is about to come down and get digested into your stomach, your insulin levels may already go up. So I would encourage you, try not to have a very sweet type of coffee in the morning or a sweet type of beverage in the morning, because your body is smart. It knows that if something sweet is coming in, it's going to need some insulin to handle that. And you don't want to create unnecessary insulin spikes. Now, who should even be worried about this? Worried about insulin resistance, worried about blood sugar issues, worried about diabetes and prediabetes? Well, diabetes and prediabetes are unfortunately very prevalent in the world at this time, especially the United States, and the rates just continue to rise. We used to think of diabetes as more of a genetic condition, where if you had a family member, you might be at risk. But now we're seeing a lot of new onset diabetes where there was no family history. So the prevalence of insulin resistance is rising and very often underdiagnosed. Unfortunately, many times we are waiting for people to develop diabetes. So if you are feeling frustrated with how much effort you are putting in to try to eat healthy, try to exercise, and you struggle to get those pounds off that you are looking to shed, the answer might be in this hormone called insulin. I would strongly encourage you to speak to your doctor, see if you need any testing to evaluate for insulin resistance. But in general, even if you don't have insulin resistance, some of the tips that we discussed today, like the order in which you should eat your meals, how you should pair protein and fat with your carbohydrates, and how you should try to keep to a low carb breakfast, these are all tips that everyone can benefit from. Prevention is key. We want to prevent disease, not just treat disease once it's already here. So I would encourage you to be proactive. Start thinking about the quality of the food you're eating, the type of food that you're eating, and really prioritize making sure you are staying healthy with exercise, adequate hydration, sleep, and nutritious foods. One thing I want you to try for tomorrow. I want you to start your day tomorrow morning with a low-carb breakfast. Couple ideas that I really love: some eggs, some avocado, some plain yogurt with berries and almonds on it, a scoop of peanut butter with a little bit of fruit, and see how you feel later in the morning. Pay attention to whether you feel hungry or you feel satisfied, if you're having cravings or you're not, and if you feel tired after you eat or energized. If you found this episode helpful, please subscribe, leave a review, a comment, share with a friend. And if you have a question or topic you want covered on these podcasts, you can DM me on Instagram at EndoHealthDoc. Until next time, stay healthy, stay informed, and take control of your wellness. I'm Dr. Alessia Roehnelt, and this has been the Wellness Protocol.